Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing some creative gel printing using resist techniques. Why I love this technique is it doesn't require anything fancy or even proper art materials, to be honest, apart from the paint. What I use are these Daiso, like the dollar store crayons. They're just wax crayons, really basic. Doesn't matter what colour you use. You just want to be able to see where you're making the marks. So I'm just going to choose this orange one because it's looks good. Like there's a lot of wax. I'm using about half a sheet of this because of the size of the plate. So let's do some zigzag lines. I'm just going to do a series of lines, and then you can see how it works. We'll do a circle with it. Just see what happens like this if you just shade it a little bit. Okay, and I'm just going to shade and just see how that works. Okay, so I would suggest not spending too much time on your actual drawing until you've got this down. So here's my plate. I'm going to do dark green to make the print, and then I'm going to pull it with the yellow, Azo yellow medium. This one is permanent green deep, and I always use Amsterdam acrylics. Habit, but I just really like them. Okay, so about 3 or 4 blobs. We're still in the dry season here in Tokyo, so I'm being a bit liberal with my paint. And then once it's on, I'm going to put the drawing down on my plate. And then I'm going to rub, but not too hard, just very gently. All we're trying to do is get the paper on the surface of the plate. The paper will suck up the paint, and hopefully what we'll be left with is the wax lines that I made. And that's the resist part of it. So you need to give it a little while to soak up the paint, but be very gentle. Okay, let's see if we've got any lines. And there we go. The lines I made with the wax crayon have transferred to the plate. Now I'm going to wait a few minutes. Just let that dry. Leave my original print there, then you can see. You're looking for a kind of milky texture on the surface of the paint. It's dry, and then you test it. It's completely dry. Make sure that your brayer is clean, which is why I always have the roll-off paper at the side. And then 3 or 4 blobs of the yellow, and get my paper ready because I'm going to pull the print. Okay. Now we need to wait a few minutes for it to fully dry, because the yellow paint is going to pick up the green paint, so it will be 2 layers on my print. You can have a little peep, and when you can see that it's coming off and the plate is clean, it's ready to pull. And there is the print from the resist. Very cool. Now let's just see, just so that I can show you. I want to show you next side by side. If I use this again, what happens? So let's just try it. And let's do the same colours, then it's a fair test. Okay. So we're doing green for the print. It might just work because it's waxy. So let's try the print again using the used one. Let's see what happens. Right. Let's give it a few minutes. In theory, it shouldn't really work because the acrylic paint is already on the surface and it should be creating a resist of its own. But let's see. Oh, it has worked. So it's worked a second time, which is really cool. And now this is a really luscious colour. So let's see how many times we can print with it and see how much longevity one of these resist plates has. You never know. Might go for 20 prints, might just go for 5, who knows. But let's give it a go anyway. You can see it coming through, so it might be done. Ooh, let's see it side by side. It's quite a different saturation actually. So this is number 1, this is number 2. To help us, I'm going to write it on. Right, let's do number 3 and see if that works. Okay. Let's try again. This is fun. Okay. So I put my paint on, and then we're going to do this again. Hopefully the wax will resist it every single time, but I think there's going to be a point where the paper won't be soaking up the paint anymore. But who knows? Maybe it'll just keep going. Yep, it's printed again. Let it dry for a couple of seconds. Okay, so now it's dry. We're going to do the same amount of paint on top. And we're going to pull yet another. Right, let's go. Oops. Let's see. Wow, it's done it again. So that is number 3. Slightly different down in this bottom part. Let's try one more. This is drying every time in between, but I wonder if there's a point at which it won't soak up the paint anymore. Who knows? It might just keep going. And then you've got endless prints. But each one will be slightly different because of the saturation of the paint through the print. Right, let's give it another go. You can declare it a success if this one works, I think. I think sometimes the grungier it gets, the cooler it is for me. Personally, I like it when it gets things on the background. I think it gives more dimension than the very crisp, clean first print. Maybe that's a bit controversial. Ah, I can see we're getting to the end of what we can do. So it's not transferring now because it's completely covered in acrylic paint. I think we're going to get something, but it's not going to be very clear. Last go with the yellow. And then we'll be able to make a decision if it's worked or not. I can still see it has transferred quite a bit. Okay. Let's just peep, and there we go. And this one is number 4. So you can sort of see it degrading as it goes. So starting off with a very crisp print for number 1, a little bit grungier for number 2, especially around here. Number 3 almost looks the same to me, apart from this bit. And number 4 is definitely the least clear, but I still like it. And then you can even use this to print something else on at a later date as well. So that's how you do wax crayon resist. We're going to try the Ballpoint pen ink resist. This is the same technique as the wax crayon resist, but it is using ink instead. And I'm going to work on the silicone mat because it's a bit squishy, and I'm going to try some different techniques. So I'm pressing quite hard on this, but I'm also going to do some cross hatching. I'm really just showing you as an example, so I'm not really thinking about my design at this point. I'm just doing some random patterns. I might do some shady scribbles, see if that works. Some dots. I'm going to do some very light lines as well and see what happens. We'll see if the ink resists. Let's do some more scribbles over here. Really heavy ones. I want to do a block of ink, really dense ink. I'm going to do some lines. Just see what happens, some crosses and stars. This is obviously, if you were doing this yourself, you'd spend a bit more time. I'm just going to do some light shading over here. Let's see what happens with it. Okay, so we've got some lines all over, and now we're going to see if we can do a resist print using this. Right, I'm all set up. I've got my phthalo blue, which is a really beautiful navy. If you can hear some construction noise in the background, they're in the final stages of the construction next door to my studio, and I really can't wait for them to finish. It's been almost a year, so I'm going to do 3 or 4 blobs and get my brayer and make it all smooth. Roll off what I don't need. And now I'm going to do my print, put it onto the plate. Now, how this works is where the ink is should resist picking up the paint. Where the paper is, it will take away the paint. So what we should be left with, in theory, I'm not rubbing too hard, just very gently, what we should be left with in theory is just the line drawing from the ball pen. Now let's see. And there you go. So you can see the things that worked and the things that didn't. And when I do another colour, you'll see this really clearly. Once it's dry, I want to put on a lighter colour so that you can see. Not as much this time. I've put 3 small blobs. Make sure that your roll is clean. Full coverage all over. And we're going to pull the print. Give it a couple of minutes. And then we can have a peep and see if it's transferred. And it looks like it's all transferred. And now you can see where I did the drawings. Here's the original one. And you can see what worked and what didn't. So basically these really, really light wiggly lines that I did didn't really transfer that well. This very, very thick area didn't transfer very well either. But the lines and the stars and different dots, they seem to transfer really well. So for these papers you can use both that one and that one in your journal to make collages or whatever you want. But that is basically how the ball pen resist works. So what I've got here are some placemats that are really lovely textures. One of those non-skid mats, which is a lovely texture. Some coasters, another mat, placemat, and also I've got a stencil, a Japanese stencil, and let's see if that works. So all I'm going to do is get some paper and we're going to make a series of textures and see which ones work. I'm going to get one of the crayons that I used before. This time I'm going to peel it. Now these are really, really cheap. They're nothing special. They're not proper art materials, not expensive. Okay, so I'm going to use the Japanese stencil first. I'm just going to run my crayon over it. Kind of like, I don't know whether you did it when you were a kid, but brass rubbing. We were obsessed when we were kids on school trips. We'd do brass rubbing. You can see some kind of texture under there. Let's try the leaves, see if that works. Whoops, already broken. Told you they weren't very good quality. Yeah, they're not good quality at all. I can feel them just disappearing under my hands. Very cheap. So that worked really well. Let's make another one. I'll do a couple together and build up a sort of design. There we go. That looks cool. See if this one works. Yep, that also works very well. The thicker the wax that you can get on there, the more resist you'll get. So remember that. And then I can see some gaps, so I'm going to see, I feel that this might not work as well. Not as good. You want something with a bit of resistance. Oh, this I think will work, because it's quite hard. Make sure you're not moving it around too much. And then the last one we'll try, I'll do a whole piece of that. It's breaking under my hands. If you wanted to move it, you could move it and do it again. I think that will do. So I've got 3 different resists and we're going to try all of them. So let's do it in permanent blue violet, and we're going to pull it with Naples Yellow Light. The reason why I'm doing two colours is because it is so dry in Japan, and I just know it won't have time to print before it dries up on the plate. So there we go, paint on, clean it off. I'm going to try the Japanese lettering first, see if that works. Very gently on, give it a few seconds or a few minutes to soak up the paint. The paper, the raw paper will soak up the paint, and where the wax is, it will resist the paint. Should have worked. Ooh, interesting. So let it dry for a couple of minutes. I have a fan so I can fan it dry. Right, so now we're going to make sure the bray is clean, and we're going to pull it with the Naples Yellow Light. And then I think I'll do the same colour for all of it, then it's easy to see side by side. Okay, give it a couple of minutes just to settle in. There we go. And very clean plate. And actually that worked quite nicely. I quite like that background. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with that one. Okay, now we're going to do the leaf one. So the same. 4 little blobs. If you're somewhere humid, you might need a lot less paint than me. It is about trial and error for where you live. I feel like this one's going to be better than the letter template. Let's give it a couple of minutes, just very gently, so give it a chance to resist the wax, and let's see. Oh, yes, that worked really well. Wow, so good. Now you can see we can probably use these again as we did before, so I might keep hold of these and just use them for future projects. And what we're looking for is the milkiness of the paint, and then we're ready to go. So while that's drying, I'm going to clean off my brayer properly. Naples Yellow Light. I love this one. It's kind of like a creamy colour. It's not stark white. If you don't want a white background, you can also get use gel medium to get it off. I'll show you that in a future video, I think. And I can see the paint coming through, so I know it's working. And I know this is going to look really good. And dun, 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 dun. There we go. It's worked really well. So you could build this up with other colours as well. I could have pulled it with many colours on the back as well. It's very cool. I think I'll do the middle of this one, so I get all of the different, textures in there. Ooh, I did 5. Maybe too much. You can already see that's too much paint. I don't know what made me do 5. And there we go. Also worked super well. A chance to dry. It's dry. And we're going back in with some of the Naples Yellow. I don't know why I keep doing 5 blobs. They were 5 small blobs though. I really like this one. I like the textures that have appeared in front of me. And just give that a minute just to settle in. Ooh, I think I found my favourite. That's so good. Really good. Okay, the last one. 4 this time. If you've watched my other videos, you'll have seen me talk about the roll-off papers, which are these papers that you clean your brayer with. I actually find these really beautiful, and I keep all of them. I like to do collage with them. They look so nice, collaged. Ooh, looks cool. Last pull. You can see it underneath. Looks interesting, but not as good as the other ones. Okay, I'm going to put it next to this one. There we go. There we have it. The final print. Here are the 4 textured prints. This was the lettering, which is not really discernible. The leaf is very clear. And then this one was all the coasters and the mat, and this was the final mat. I have my favourite, and I'm wondering which one's yours. Leave a comment below. So here are the results of today's experiments. We have the crayon, we have the pen, which is a bit more of a scratchy kind of texture, and then we have the wax crayon rubbings. Which technique do you think you're going to try next? Which one is your favourite? Was anything surprising about this today? Leave comments below and let's get chatting. Thanks so much for watching. I'm wondering if you're going to have a go at any of those techniques. Will you be using the rubbing technique, or will you be using the pen technique, or will you be drawing with crayon? Let me know in the comments what your favourite technique is and which one you're going to have a go at next. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you want to see more. See you next time.